Eric Keefe, editor-in-chief of the Quintessential Gentleman. What's going on, fellas? How are you?
Doing good.
Great, brother. Good to see you, man.
Perfect,
Thank
perfect. No, it's good to see you all. The movie was amazing. So I'm very, very pleased to be speaking with you both about this. And I just want to kind of kick it off with you, RT, and just figure out, this post-apocalyptic, it's becoming
you.
a thing. Y'all
Mm,
starting to freak me out. I just,
mm. Don't put that
I just
on me, bro. Nah, I'm not the one that's crumbling the world right now.
Also fair,
Fair,
fair.
fair.
But I want to know what sparked the idea for you to even like come on because you are a writer and co-wrote this project and then also directed it.
hmm Yeah, so I think, look, I mean, first and foremost, it starts with family, you know what I mean? And the story is very much about a family, a very particular, very unique family. But the core of it is a mother-son story, you know? And I think that I wanted to have a conversation
Mm,
about, strong mothers and sons, and as an echo of, my relationship with my mother.
mhm.
um, in my specific situation, it's an immigrant mother that came to Canada, faced a lot of discrimination, a lot of racism, and had to sort of form her armor about how she's going to move through the world. And then she trying to pass that knowledge and that understanding of the world down to me as her son. And then me as her son, you know what it is. You looking for your own sense of freedom. You looking to bump, you have a different worldview sometimes. So I think it's a very universal conflict that happens in every family,
Yes.
regardless. And so I had something that I wanted to talk about there, but I wanted to take that relationship and project it into the future, where staying out late isn't just you're not just gonna get in trouble with your mom. It might be life or death. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And I'm a genre kid. I love thrillers. I
Okay.
love science fiction. I love, horror and action and those things. So it just felt like a really interesting way to have that conversation. And then once it became in the future and it became about survival and it became about land.
Yeah.
um, to touch points with the history of it all. It started to come together, and I started to really think about, communities that really have a relationship with the land.
Mm,
And, and it became organic to me to have, the family not just be a Black family who, of course, traditionally we've been denied land
right.
in our history, but also the indigenous community whose land has been stolen from them, right?
Right.
And I just started thinking like, yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a Black and indigenous family on screen, centered, you know what I mean, as heroes. You might see us in Westerns as like somebody's sidekick
Yeah.
or some, you know what I mean, like that kind of thing, but you never see us together.
Yeah.
And in this particular case with this family, they're thriving.
Mm,
They're the family that people are calling
yeah.
for help. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, both of our communities, especially, the Black communities had to been so resilient due to what we've gone through in
Mm,
our history, due to how colonialism has tried to eradicate us.
mm,
We've been so resilient. So to me, it was like, you're going to see this family in the future. They're thriving.
yeah.
They've been through it. They know how to survive,
Yeah.
and so that's what was the core of the story for me.
I love that. I love that. And it's definitely exemplified throughout the entire film. And I wondered if was there any kind of inspirations or references
Hmm.
that kind of helped shape 40 Acres?
I mean, for sure, like, cinematically, there's great thrillers and visions, of the past that, I think of It Comes at Night, which was an indie film, came out a little while ago, that was sort of about the breakdown of trust, because there's another theme that is throughout the film, which is, is, in a world, that you can't trust people. You don't know what people are up to. And so Haley kind of represents this, thought process of like, no, we just take care of self and that's it. We
Yeah.
don't bother with anybody else. And so I really liked what that film had to say
Mhm.
about that, that it's messy, that it's not, no one's always right in those situations. You kind of circumstantial, you have to deal with that. And I like that about that. So that was an influence for sure. But I think too, like, I think it comes from culture, man. I think once I settled on what this family was going to be, who they were going to be, this stuff started to come out naturally. I thought about how a lot of our ancestors have survived, and it really has been through, um, the preservation of ourselves, our identity,
Yeah.
right? And there are elements to those things, or cultural elements to that kind of preservation. It's preservation of history. It's making sure you know where you come from and who've come before you.
Yeah.
It's preservation of our culture through our art, through our music,
Mhm.
uh, through our language or our use of languages. You know what I mean? Um, our food practices,
Mhm.
how we farm, what we eat,
Mhm.
and our faith. And by keeping those things strong through generations, passing that down, we've been able to maintain who we are as people
Yeah.
and not be erased. So those are heavy things and so you see it reflected in the film. Obviously,
Yeah.
you see Haley teaching her kids about history, making them do book reports. That's my mom, made me
Yeah.
do book reports. She was like, I don't trust these institutions to teach you about yourself. You need to learn this yourself and then report it back to me.
Right.
Um, you see Galen, the father, he's about passing down that language, that Cree language to his daughters. And you see what it is to this young man, who plays Manny. Music is such an important part of his life.
Yeah.
The music of the past, it allows him to escape. It allows him to feel free in a
Mhm.
place where he's not. So all of those things became important for me to put into the film
Perfect. Yeah.
while they're surviving. Yeah.
Now, and Kateem, I'm coming to you, man. I'm gonna let you know right now. You was pissing me off.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm like,
You too?
listen, I'm like, God, and it's
Yeah.
so bad. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm at that age where I'm figuring out, do I want to have kids or not? You're an
Mhm.
example why I don't want to have kids.
Oh, word. Yeah. I've gotten that. I've gotten that a lot. Apparently, that's a lot of
But
people's reaction.
but I want to know, what was your first reaction when you read the script?
Uh, I instantly thought I was like, this is me on like many levels, and not to say like if I am frustrating to people, then it is what it is. But I instantly related to that wholeheartedly right off the jump because it touched on his relationship with his mother. First off, was a big part of it. Him being the firstborn son in the whole family, I
Yeah.
understood the isolation, the seeking for identity, and
Mhm.
everything that comes with the pressures of being so-called man of the house in that case. Even though like there's obviously Galen in the house and such, usually that kind of role falls on to like firstborn son to the biological mother. And I instantly understood that. Actually, my mom also understood that. And this is like one of the only scripts that she actually read completely through when we got the audition. And
Wow.
so we both understood like this is like super important. So I tried my best to like to exemplify like why the story that he wanted to bring because
Yeah.
it just related to me so much and it meant something to me so much from the jump.
No, awesome. And I mean, how did you prepare for this role? I mean, clearly it was just looking back at your past. You just,
It
it
was
was
it
just
was
your
a, it
mind.
was a bit of that. It was a bit of looking at just asking my mom like how did I frustrate you growing up like
Mm.
what did you see like what how was I in your eyes and such
Mhm.
and yeah, like growing up, I was naturally very rebellious, not only rebellious, but like to myself.
Mm.
And I found my identity through a lot of creative ventures, and that includes like music and uh, drawing, telling stories and such. And I found that with Emmanuel, I could like showcase that a bit and such. And at the same time, we obviously have differences in lifestyle. He grew up more militant, of course.
Yeah.
So I tried to take on his lifestyle and his like workout regime and as much as I can so I could understand like not only like does he have discipline, but like he takes an identity towards his regime because he's grown up in such a militant family and such. And he finds a way through everything that he's doing to like keep himself intact because the world is like crumbling around him.
Yeah.
So I try to like take on his lifestyle as much as possible, um, talk with my mom and like understand our relationship as much as possible, delve down there. And RT also helped a lot with like having me bond with a lot of my peers, Kanye for one, and definitely talking to Danielle
I
and
was
her
just
like
gonna say,
stuff.
the
Yeah,
amazing Danielle Deadwyler, like, how was it working with her?
it was so great. I got to like I learned very early in my career that like when you get the privilege to work with anybody, including like the juggernaut talent that she is, like just sit back and watch and soak in as much as possible. And that's what I was doing. And she really took the lead and held the gravity of the whole process of everything. So I was just soaking up game as much as possible. And also asking her about her life and how she treats because she also has a son and how she goes about how she understands that dynamic in her life. And I learned everything and just kind of like attached it to the world that we were in.
That RT, when you were coming up for casting and, figuring out who was going to play, was she already top of mind? Did you like, what was kind of the process?
It's, I mean, the process was a long process, but she was always top of mind for me. I wrote this part with my co-writer Glenn Taylor, and you know, like I said, there's echoes of my mother in there, but understand, Mom, you are not a military killer. That's not what I'm
Yeah.
saying. That's not what I'm saying. So let me just get that out the way. But she was strict. She was a strict disciplinarian. You know what I mean? So a lot of the essence of Haley is my mom super powered into this future, right? But I've always loved Danielle, you know, watching her. She's a scene stealer. She comes in and she's instantly the most magnetic person you see in a scene, nearly in anything. And I remember being like, she's at the time they were doing this, I'm like, she's an absolute star on the rise. And if I have a chance to get a chance to work with her before she's out of here, I gotta take it. So, we tried to get at our people, but we were in the middle of a strike. We were in the middle of that SAG strike a
Yeah.
few years ago. So, we sent the material out, but there was also, you couldn't talk to actors at that time. You weren't even allowed to engage them.
Yeah.
So, but because we were an indie film, because that's mostly a strike against the studios
Yep.
at that time,
Yep.
you have a chance to get a waiver. And I put a call into a friend of mine who was the showrunner of Station 11, which was a show that she was on HBO. And I said, "Hey man, like I wrote something. It's an intense project, but it's a human project, and I just feel like Danielle should be the one, And what do you think?" And he just had one answer. He just like, Danielle Deadwyler is always the one, always the right choice. I was like, okay.
Yep.
So I was lucky. He put a back word in
Yep.
that got to her, and then apparently she had read it and she responded to it, and so then we started the process of that. But she
Okay.
got in, she jumped in with us like 2 weeks before we started shooting, bro.
Ooh.
So we were headed down to we were already moving in production. We had
Yeah.
already moved up north to the
Yeah.
farm and everything, and then she blessed us and she came on board and like a team said, just like came on set and just immediately um, embodied the presence of this woman that has been shouldering
Yeah.
this farm for, 18 years or whatever, you felt that on her face, you felt
Yeah.
that in her body, you see what it is on camera,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was amazing.
It was
So
intimidating.
you say it again?
It was intimidating, definitely. Like the way she came in, like yeah, because not seeing her, there was this whole mystery leading up to it. It was like
Yeah.
who's gonna be my mother and such. And I understood the options, and then she came on set, and I just instantly, not only from her eyes and everything, I saw my mother, but like the way that she came in, it was like, yeah, game on. Like get on
Yeah, she's
yourself.
like she's like
Right?
5'3", 5'4",
Yeah.
maybe, but she feels
So
like
intense.
7'2", bro.
She'll knock you down to size. She'll bring you right down to size with one
Yeah,
look.
yeah, yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
I love that.
that's
I
what I
love
grew
that.
up with. That's great.
So, kind of wrapping up my time here, I want to know, as young Black, like both of you guys in the creative space, right? From music, on both sides of you, kind of what advice do you give them? One advice kind of being in this space and kind of growing in this space, right? But then also, what do you want specifically young Black men to get after watching 40 Acres? I'll start with you, Katim.
From watching 40 Acres specifically, I think for young Black creatives, I think it's good. It's good to block out the noise a lot of times to actually just hone in on your identity with whatever creative venture you take part in, because that's what he did a lot of, and it shows that that's the one thing that was like keeping him together, along with obviously family and such. So um, don't like miss out on that. And obviously he's a bit more. It's needed. His reality is what it is. For he can't have a choice to like hear what the world is, what's going on in the world and such. But nowadays we have that decision to block out the noise, and I think it's very important to do so and stay in yourself.
That's
RT?
interesting. Yeah, man. I mean, I feel like what can I say? I feel like the film is about um trust and community, and whether to engage in community or to pull back from community. And I think there's a strong conversation in the film that happens. It ain't really telling you what to do,
Yeah.
but it's presenting, that sometimes you have to do one of it, you know what I mean? Stay a little to yourself. And then sometimes you really do have to rely on each other, reach out to each other and connect with each other. And um, I think a character like Manny is, this one that wants connection and wants to, um, you know, create community. And I think that's a healthy thing in a time where it can feel like we're being encouraged to silo ourselves and not engage. And I think that it's important to know when to do that, and then definitely know when to pull back, but then definitely know when you can rely on each other,
Mhm.
when to reach out, when to communicate and connect with each other, and I think that's a vital aspect that a lot of young men are struggling with these days, is not knowing how to communicate, not knowing who to communicate to,
Right.
and who their tribe can be. And you know you have to find your own identity in that, but I think it's important that people continue that. We're social animals, you know what I mean? We're not meant to exist in a complete vacuum. So understand your history and who you are, and then share it though, because we all need people at some point in time. That's the absolute truth.
Great. Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time. Again, phenomenal film. Can't wait for everyone to see it so we can talk about it. But thank you guys again.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you so
Appreciate your
much.
time, man.
Of course.